This is a presentation and workshop given by Waking Down senior teacher Sandra Glickman in Fairfield, Iowa on October 13th, 2013. Her topic is Spiritual Warrior as Co-Creator with Being, considering how to proceed in the discovery of your life expression, invoking the Divine Masculine in service to the Divine Feminine. This audio has been edited to shorten a few lengthy silences during which Sandra gives the participants some time to investigate their own inner world in response to questions she poses. You may want to use your pause control at these moments in order to fully explore what comes up in you. And now, here's Sandra.
First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. I mean, it's really wonderful to have the opportunity to just share myself. And you're all brilliant. You could do this yourselves. But it's fun to have the gathering and kind of like work it together. And so I am going to talk for a while, but I'm actually inviting you to participate along with what I'm mentioning. So follow along. A part of becoming a spiritual warrior and co-creating in life is nurturing your fantasies, nurturing your imagination. And so I'm just inviting you as we talk to stay in touch with not only your sensations in the body, which we're all accustomed to doing, your thoughts and your emotions, but pay attention to the little pictures in your mind and what pops up as imagination and fantasy, because that's very potent and powerful in terms of having a life that is focused and artful and co-creative with being. So that's the reason to become a spiritual warrior, is that you really then cultivate your capacity to have an impact on your life. And as you change your life, the life of all is impacted and changed. So, first of all, I want to ask you, who or what is a spiritual warrior? I mean, those seems like two opposing words.
In this work, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, warriors in this time are totally hyper-masculine.
Okay, well, I want to ask you not that question, but I want to ask you, like, to enter into the archetype of a warrior. Okay? I know you're familiar with that. And imagine yourself in a campaign, and that you are an important person in the field who's helping to determine the outcome of the battle. And what qualities are needed? What qualities are called forth from the warrior? The warrior is an important component in any society. First of all, you have to ask yourself, why is the warrior fighting? Why does the warrior fight? What is the quality there that's called forth? I'm just going to ask you, okay?
Conviction.
Conviction, okay?
Courage.
Yeah. Courage.
Perseverance.
Perseverance.
Unlimited perseverance.
See, imagine in the intensity of a battle, and everything is challenge. If you don't have perseverance to follow through, where are you? Where are you left without that? It's not different in spiritual life. As you become more and more awake and you begin to tune into your goals and you have conviction about wanting them fulfilled, it's like you have to come on board to muster those parts of yourself which are willing to face the danger, to have courage, to move out, and also think more. Like you're one warrior. What else?
Skill with the tools, the
Whoa,
weapons.
really good. Yes, really good.
First thing I always see when I think of the warrior is his grounded strength, just really grounded in the lower body. And
Beautiful. Question?
Capacity to discriminate.
Yes! Who would think? Just a muscle man? No! You have to be able to discriminate. Sensing, hearing, feeling, tuning in to the flow, and finding that place where there's an opening. And like being able to move in there, right? Okay, more.
Connected to some higher purpose that is really important to you.
Totally right. I put down the word devotion. Would you think that a warrior is devoted? Connected to a higher purpose, like that's the conviction too. If you don't have that higher purpose and that sense of devotion to it, why would you ever go into battle? To know, I'm fighting for freedom in the world, or I'm fighting to protect my home.
Well, I'm thinking of a particular skill in action where the person does not get bogged down in resistance. So there's enough clarity and devotion for the action to flow.
Right. So then we have to recognize our character where we might get bogged down, where we might collapse a little, where we might fall back. And like recognize it and be able then to make another stand or take heart and move in another direction. Maybe maneuver around that or recognize it strongly enough to let it go and go beyond. So it's like everything about the warrior really is transcending, but in place. Because, you can't fuzz off in a battle. You've got to be there, and you transcend your limitations in place in order to survive and prevail.
So that would take discipline.
Beautiful. People on the field, people who go to war, most of the time they say is spent in exercises and discipline and learning the weapons and getting all your ducks lined up and getting everything ready. Fearlessness. Margie?
A warrior is in a hierarchy and needs to learn how to receive instruction, sometimes to give instruction, but also to take initiative. So there's a lot of discernment, and there has to be a lot of willingness to know when to receive orders and when to move on one's own.
Wow,
a lot of people can't do that.
That's a stunning one, That's really true. A warrior never really acts on his own, right? He's a member of I don't know what you call them, a flank or a group or a company and there is a hierarchy of command. And what would happen if every warrior just did his own thing exclusively? But if that person doesn't take initiative when it's called for, then what would happen? Yeah. So this is like life. Actually, this is a metaphor for life, you guys. It's not just a metaphor for the battle, but we talk a lot about it. It takes a lot to be here. We can't just sit back and say, life is going to pleasure me, It doesn't happen that way. We have to lean in. Heard that before? It takes strength and courage. It takes being a warrior to lean into life and to actually be present in your body, in the field of your life. It takes strength to lean in. It takes all these qualities. So I want to mention a couple that I didn't quite hear yet. It takes also a sense of the whole field. Like a warrior does have to keep focus and meet the next person to person, but they have to also be aware of the field of what's happening everywhere so that you can bring your entire intelligence to bear on the action. So then, an important thing in order to prepare for a battle is, you need to have a sense of the map of the territory. Right? And so what we're learning here is the map of the human terrain, how human beings work, how they develop, what happens in interpersonal interactions, and also learning the map of our individual relationship to the entire cosmos. So, That's one thing I want to say. You have to know the map, and we're going to talk about the map.
Maybe something in that very piece about knowing your opponent, by knowing how humans are, or having a sense of how humans are.
Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
really nice.
Is that part of the map that you're referring to?
Yeah,
just refer
it's
to the
part of
gross
the
map.
it's part of the total map. Yeah.
And I'm thinking too heart, because if you have an enemy, you have to discriminate whether, does the person have to be killed? Maybe not.
Maybe not. But remember the famous battle in Bhagavad Gita is
You
like
had to
you have to
act.
play your role, and you have to really be clear, and you have to be really decisive, and you may have to deliver some unpleasant force,
Definitely.
even to people that you're fond of and in your family. But that's also a metaphor for the whole being, for parts of yourself that you're fond of.
Yeah.
You need to kind of like let them go or limit their influence on you, So knowing your enemy, boy, remember, we have met the enemy and he is Okay, so another thing I wanted to say to you, we may lose sight of this, and we don't want to be unnecessarily anxious, but everything in life is actually a test. Everything that you encounter calls for the warrior to come forth and evaluate and meet the challenge and grow in knowledge. Grow in knowledge and grow in strength and grow in knowing oneself and grow in appreciating the whole play of life. So everything is really a test, and the outcome of the test that arises has an influence on everything. And I know you probably know this already, but consider just in your relationship or in your family or in your community how you relate to a person that you may come in some kind of difference with or conflict with, whether you meet with appropriate force or appropriate love or appropriate exchange has a ripple effect on the entire community, the entire field of being, the cosmic life that is the divine one, the person that Samuel's talking about, that you are that person, but there is a person that is all of this. And we interface or are that person. And so every one of your actions has an effect on you, whether you feel good about what you've done or whether you kind of like feel not so good. And I just want to say that everything is a
Like
test.
being out of integrity with yourself.
Say that.
Out of integrity with yourself.
Yes.
Or in,
So the question is, for the warrior, is how do you show up moment to moment? And always in the short term, if you evaluate that, you can misassess. You cannot know whether your actions were beneficial or not beneficial. Sometimes you need time to assess and feel. And maybe battles need centuries before we really assess whether it was good or not good. So the map, I wanted to talk about the map. Let's say that the map that Samuel put up there is the basic map. It's been stated in many, many ways, but it's a basic map of being. There is the core value, which is awareness, non-separateness of an alignment of the self and all the levels of oneself, and the moving forward in the awakeness of that. That's like at the core of everything. We're assuming that that one who is birthing the universe moment by moment is awake to itself, or is coming awake to itself, and is in alignment with its own manifestation and own actions. So that's the core. And then the periphery is, all the nuances that have to do with embodiment. all the various bodies that we have, the mental body, the emotional body, the soul is a separate body. Even the witness has a body effect as distinct from maybe the absolute field of pure awareness. Then there's the witness, which has a little bit of a location. I mean, there are layers and layers and layers of bodies. And then there are all the cosmic bodies and all the, matter, all the levels of matter, all the levels of animal life. So action, everything is manifesting as the core and taking action based upon the sensitivity and perception. If everything is sentient, it's moving away, it's moving toward, it's balancing out and neutralizing. It's playing a part. So between the core and the periphery, there's an endless play. And we're called upon to make choices within that play. And our choices that's our co-creative capacity. And it's often spoken of, is there free will or not free will? And the general conviction of many deeply spiritual people is, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, there is. There's a margin.
It sure looks like that.
It doesn't seem like it, does it? It seems like everything's mechanical. Everything is a matter of, just mechanical reaction. But you will have to experiment with this. Like if you veer this way, the outcome may be different than if you choose to veer this way. It's like you will have to look at that and test it and see what your experience is. And that's one of the things I really admonish you. I'm just not telling you how it is. I'm telling you to test everything. And as I said, I'm telling you my convictions, that I am convinced that we have a hand and that we co-create our lives. And that we, at any one time, that we are offered a variety of choices. Like we actually live on the edge. And how we choose begins to build a pattern of influence. And we are artists, layering this color, stepping back. Do I like that? Is it enough balance? Does it have enough verve? What do I need to add? What do I feel like doing? Because our life is this canvas upon which we are creating by making choices. And coming from a warrior attitude, where we also include the imagination and the desire, that is our expression. We are creative artists. We're not always creating from an infinite array of choices. Usually, the reason we feel like there's no free will is like the choices or the patterns seem really strong. But you might remember that some people have said there's always a choice over how you relate to a situation. And that's a very important choice, actually, whether or not the outcome goes the way you want it, but then how do you relate to that?
That is the biggie.
That is, yeah. That's what we're working on here, not loading ourselves up with guilt and just finding that we can accept and allow and open to what is, and then evaluate, get the feedback and evaluate. Okay, now, I wanted to say another thing about the universe, the map, our map. And, we say this a lot, but it takes lifetimes, I think, to really come to this conviction that the universe is one. That takes eons of unfolding to really understand that. But to finally come to see that everything is totally interconnected. Our wisdom traditions have always said, every hair on your head is counted, right? Every sparrow that falls has an impact on the whole. Everything influences everything else. Now, another thing is that things are not necessarily random. That's another part of the map. Things are not actually random. But in our covered eyes, they appear to be. And a key that I've been looking into lately, which is really fun, Jeffrey and I are kind of hitting off of this, is synchronicity. You notice that this happened, and then at the same time this happened, and they seem to be worlds apart. And then you start looking into it more closely, and you see, this has a resonance with this. And then you begin to get that even in the play of opposites, light and dark, good and evil, whatever, masculine and feminine, there's a resonance, there's a likeness, there's a key to the fact that this is connected. It's not disconnected. And in Waking Down we talk about, in the core, there is paradox, there is simultaneity. And it's fun after a while to look at these synchronicities. The inside is reflected in the outside, and the outside is reflecting often what's inside of you. And it's kind of an interesting study in applying your discernment to see what's going on here. So that's another conviction of mine. And another thing is that it is true on the embodied plane that things appear in opposites. And this is another relationship thing. The opposites appear to be very, very different. And we want to land on one side of the opposite and not the other. But if you begin to experiment and look and feel, when you say, so-and-so is totally not like me, you can begin to see, why am I have my attention fixed on this? Because, there are parts of me that are like that. At the level that we're living at, though, there does appear to be cause and effect and karma. That's another one I actually think that is being offered to us. It's like, okay, this is a pattern, and here it is again, and how will you choose this time? And what do you need to experience very fully in order to make a truly informed and compassionate choice? So that's how I think our suffering is. I feel our suffering is for the benefit of our learning and our growth and our surrender into our part in the totality. So I'm just telling you what I think. You may think something different. Oh, yes.
It's a distinction that would come up for me. I mean, I think a lot of the things that you're talking about, I think, can be useful ways in which to understand things. To me, there seems to be a great element, that also holding this with an uncertainty, a way that I guess I see reality as, or the totality of my experience generally as kind of transrational, or, it's, we see patterns, right? This seems to be our nature. And it's not bad, and it's not bad to have narratives like karma, and we talk about everything is interdependent. Well, interdependence implies that there's different objects and there's some relationship between them, and there's different ways that we can describe the way that things are dependent upon each other. This is what most of scientific endeavor is all about. But I think when we take that, we turn it into a belief or a dogma, or we talk about everything being one. Well, there's many ways that reality can show up in terms of non-separateness or non-duality. But I think for me there's this aspect of holding all of this lightly, of not reifying this, of not turning this to a belief system or a way in which that I'm right or I know better. And that the way that there's we have to act, we have to make decisions, and often decisions are in the face of tremendous uncertainty. So I think that the uncertainty isn't an excuse for just I guess I'll just fluff along, and at the same time, I think it's, that to me that piece seems really important. Also, that
it is really important, and thank you. We're always, I think, in the danger of making the map the territory. So yes, there are many maps and many ways of describing all of this, and yet, in order to actually choose, we have to have some map. We have to, at the moment, have some map from which we're actually choosing. And it may not be conscious. We may have a very deeply felt, intuitive, deep conviction that we don't even know, but we're proceeding from that map. And so part of our work as a warrior is to bring up at least the maps we do have.
In a sense, culture is a fundamental map we all live within,
Yeah,
and that's almost always unconscious.
yeah. But I totally agree. Not to reify the map and just require everybody and yourself to live by this only, because it is not so clear. It's not so clear-cut. So part of what I want to ask you right now is let's have a little investigation. And part of that investigation will be like opening to being available for the revelation of your map, of your deep held values and your convictions, and also the patterns that tend to interfere with your actually manifesting your particular deep map of the territory and your particular contribution. So we're going to just go through this sequence right here that I put on the board, but don't even look at it. It's very fundamental. Okay, so right now, in order to just have a little session with yourself, you could do this anytime, just tune in to your experience. And it doesn't have to be internal. It's just the totality of your experience right now. There's an element that's inside, and there's an element that's outside in the environment. And there are components that are outstanding to you right now. Maybe even my voice, because you're wanting to follow. So there are components that are outstanding and components that are in the background. And just open to all of this. What is your experience right now? And I'm going to just give you a little bit of direction, but you can follow your own internal promptings. Notice any thoughts. Notice how your mind is doing, whether it's turning or feeling heavy or feeling anxious or exhausted. Notice any emotions, happiness, heaviness, anxiety, edginess. Just notice anything that's flowing through your body in terms of sensation and the physicality. Are you comfortable? Are you a little uncomfortable and just putting up with it? Just notice at the various levels of yourself. What is in your body-mind, in the field of your environment? What you're noticing, what is? Now I invite you to go to another level. Notice, what is your attitude toward what is? What is your attitude? Are you in resistance? Are you just waiting for it to change? Are you wanting to clamp down on certain aspects? Are you wanting to get on with something new? Are you judging yourself for being any particular way? Just notice your attitude toward what is going on in you. Are you stuck? Very often people feel, oh God, I'm stuck, I'm so stuck. That's one I run into a lot. So now, have the sense that you're moving down deeper, connecting with an even deeper aspect of yourself. Like more into your core, you could say. What part of yourself is most familiar and yields the most guidance for you in your core? Is it like, are you oriented toward the level of sensations? Are you oriented toward the level of emotions, joy, sadness, intensity? Are you oriented toward the level of instinct, where there's an instinctual urge to move and act and get together with others, to express togetherness or something like that? Are you moved instinctually to share and join with others? Is there any movement in you that wants to create a product or an outcome? So what I'm suggesting is, as you settle down through the layers of yourself, that you soften, relax, open, be curious, and be available to the communication from your body-mind, the deepest parts of your body-mind. Listen, attune, invite the deepest part of you to reveal itself to you. This is more the level of, I know this. It's not I sense it, I feel it, I think it, but I know this, or I am this. I stand for this, I uphold this, I reflect this, I contribute this. It's deep, deep, deep values. So take a little bit of time to orient toward that part of yourself which is deeply intuitive, deeply knowing. And you know, that part of yourself probably has an agenda to fulfill in this lifetime. I am here to grow in blah, blah, blah. I am here to do blah, blah, blah. The deepest part of yourself. Now, in our work, I think this would be called the deep feminine, only because creation itself is an expression of the flow of Shakti and form, which is the feminine aspect of ourselves. So I'm inviting you to keep a connection to the deep feminine of yourself. She is the soul. She holds your values. She stands for relatedness. This doesn't mean you can't create. It doesn't mean you can't be forceful. But in a certain kind of sense, she is the monarch, the mistress of us all. And we are, as warriors, needing to bring our strength, our talent, to her, to serve her deep purpose. I'm using these feminine, masculine terms, but it's not necessary. We can just say the deepest part of yourself has needs and is hoping that you'll notice and is hoping that you'll bring your strength to bear. Now, if you might have trouble getting in touch with this part of yourself, of knowing, the knowing part, you can invoke it, because it's more likely to show itself if you make room and invite and invoke and show your readiness to bow down to your deep soul self. We all want really good guidance in our lives. We need it. We all feel a little lost in this world of form. And we're longing for this deep guidance. So invite and invoke her right now, the wisdom of yourself, the deepest wisdom. When you connect, you will know something like, I am home. This is where I belong. This is where I stand. This is who I ultimately am. This kind of knowing is the deep part of yourself that can guide you. So let's take it another level. The level is more now toward focus and expression. Having touched this part, do you get a hold of anything that requires your focus that you would like to call upon, to externalize, to actually manifest in your life in terms of a quality, a product, a relationship, a knowing, a growth level? So I just invite you right now to see if you can get a hold of that. And you won't do it perfectly, but if you can get a sense of where to go, what to try out, it's totally fine to just get a notion about it. Ah, I could do this. I could focus on this quality. I could commit myself to behaving in this particular way. So see if you can get that sense. And then ask yourself, is this it? And see what your being offers. Did I get it right? See, just check it out with her. Or with parts of yourself. Did I get it right? Do I have at least a first step I could test out in the world and try out? Remember that you're an artist, and in a sense, a warrior or an artist, you have to try things out. They don't, you have to test them out. Does this belong? Does it work? So you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to have a successful trial. If it's so-called not successful, it offers information. And you can modify your plan and try another angle on it. So, acting with this deeper kind of core conviction and core notion, you can move into the world and express your authentic self in a deeper way as you go forward. So, bringing this part of our meeting to a close, I just invite you to become present and be grateful. Thank your deepest self for whatever was offered to you. And take a moment to open your eyes. We have about 15 or 20 minutes left here. And I'd like to hear from you if you have anything you'd like to share.
I found myself, when you said right, it was fine that you said right, but I found myself then right or wrong. So for me, what I needed to do then was, how does it feel? So I didn't get stuck on my little thing of right and wrong. How does it feel?
What did I say right about it?
Does this feel right?
Oh, gotcha.
Does
Okay.
this feel right? So
Okay.
for me, I just needed to change the language. How does this feel
That's good.
for me?
That's good. I slipped into the dual world.
Well,
It's okay. That right or wrong kind of relates more to thinking. So maybe you're not accustomed to thinking the world that way. Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. What about other people? Did this help you get a sense of how to get some of your own guidance?
Yeah.
I like the feeling of the layers.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really about getting your own guidance and knowing whom you serve. Whom do you serve, you know? And, yeah.
When we got, I was having a little trouble following the verbalness as we got deeper. At some point so I don't remember what your words were.
That's fine.
Finding the truer self, or going really deep into a deep core layer. There was this moment when energy began to come out of my belly or lower belly, and I felt parts of me were just like in awe. I mean, it was like in awe of this energy that was expressing itself. When you asked to have something be revealed that you should know about, or something along those lines, and then when you asked about the wisdom thing, all I felt was my heart just turning out, just opening out, and it was the sense that for me the purpose is to let these energies have more space in my life, and let them run the life in some ways more.
Right. Good. Beautiful. Did anybody get stuck in parts of yourself that were byways and frustrating?
I did, but I let's just say 2/3 of the way through your guided, I came into a way softer, more, and then it was actually like it sometimes happens in meditation when I don't know if it's because I get kind of dream images. It's not like I'm really conscious. I don't know what that state is.
There's a name for it.
It's not, it doesn't feel like clarity at all. I mean, I'm just giving that as a
Sure. Okay, well,
it's not sharp.
It's sometimes called an hypnagogic state. Is that right? Hypnagogic. It means it's
Yeah.
you're kind of hypnotized, but you're there. And then the deeper parts of the self begin to float up from where they've been held down.
Really helpful to hear that.
Yeah. And I was...
It's tricky though, isn't it?
Well, it is tricky, but I was going to say, these elements that float up are clues sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I said it. Yeah, it's
They're-
helpful to hear that.
Yes.
You say that.
They're
'Cause
part of our...
that resonates.
They're part of our deeper capacity to perceive patterns, events, psychic intuitions about the whole. And I was going to just also give you a little exercise on that. So I'll do that in a minute if you want to do another one.
I have this aversion to a lot of the maps and kind of thinking and blah blah blah. And I realized for myself, having been doing my PhD in computer science, I filtered through a massive amount of information to find what's important.
Yeah.
And so, I think the way that I do that is actually not holding on to a lot of detail and trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
but it's mostly felt sense.
Yes.
And then a sense of trust. Actually this morning I was like, do I want to come here? Do I want to go to Sangha? And just kind of there's, it's I can't figure it out. And at some point I was like, there's something popped up that Sangha had said. And I was like, oh, okay, I trust Sangha, boom. And so, for me, there's a lot of operating on trust and moving from a felt sense.
Beautiful. Well, that is a deeper part of you than the logical thinking process. And that is, I think, how we sort through information. We resonate to what feels like is attracting us and feels right. And that's getting down toward intuition and selecting our direction from that deeper part of intuition. So you're kind of telling me, even though you worked in the field of science and logic and all that you sort of operate by intuition and more depth than the thinking mind.
Yeah. Even, when I'm I'm written a lot of research papers, but it's like that whole process is like a feeling experience.
Yeah.
Like I read a paragraph and I feel it, and I adjust
Yeah.
the words so it feels good in my body. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling intuition, that's right. Well, let's do another one, just because I want to help you affirm your imagination and your creative mind and your deeper level of images that pop up. And they can inform you. They can give you rich material that your kind of conscious mind is not always tuned into. Okay, so imagine right now a situation. Just recreate and imagine a situation you're in that's a little distressful, that hasn't opened up to you, that you don't quite know how to deal with, or you don't quite get. So in your thoughts and in your feeling sense and in your visual field, see the location of the situation. Maybe it's work, maybe it's home, maybe it's environment. See family, whatever, and see the people who are involved. Just see them peopled in that scene, the scene and the people. And now, just letting that be, just invite your mind or your deeper self to play around with this scene. See, I don't think we do this too often, but let the free play happen. As if you're designing a movie or something, and you're trying to figure out how to get these characters to interact, and you're trying to really get a beat on who they are and what their character is. So you might take one person at a time and tune in to them and let your mind and imagination play out information. Who they are, you might see them doing something. Or you might picture their posture. Or maybe their face changes in a certain way. Just let yourself play. Let your mind play. Let your imagination play. This is your creative artist at work. See, people who do movies and stories and everything, they must really play out these scenes and these characters. But there's actually often a hidden essential response that you've missed because you're just stuck in your patterns about it. So now, just deliberately say, okay, let's roll. And you take this character and see him doing an action. See him or her enacting, moving and changing around. And now add yourself to the scene. You are interacting with the character. And now add in, you are interacting with the character in the past. And just see what your mind throws up, what your being offers up. Okay, now move it to the future. You are interacting with this character in the future. Actually see little pictures, movies, cameras rolling. You're getting intuitions and fantasies about this. Okay, so let that come to an end. And then now, as we did before, kind of like the next level. What kind of fantasy did you play out with this character? Was it a reunion fantasy? Or a power play fantasy? Or a happy exchange fantasy? Or a healing fantasy? I don't know, there are all kinds of fantasies that we play out. See if you can get a sense of the general gist of it. Well, anyhow, I have discovered that these fantasies are actually going on when I'm relating to people. And I'm bringing this up because I want you to pay attention. Our creative imagination is what is helping to shape our lives and our relationships. And so just to be aware of it, you can then use it. Maybe, and I've discovered that sometimes like those little pictures are giving me vital information about the other person. Like, how was that for you? Did you get some information?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that your imagination can act and inform you of anything, something? At least be entertaining?
I kind of found it difficult, but I did get that. I can be the director. I'm the director.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't have to take this pattern that's playing itself out. I can change the picture. I mean, I'm
Well,
the
that's
director.
fabulous.
That's what you're talking about.
That's
So,
what the
like,
conscious life is about. You know, making a choice to change the picture. That's our co-creative capacity.
and it has, what I really get in my own experience here was that it has to be cultivated, because you know, what came up wasn't,
Yes.
but
It actually does have to be cultivated. But it's there as part of our innate talent as human beings. And you know, you can see children, they know how to do that. They don't have to be taught, you know, it's just like pouring out of them the creative capacity to envision roles and relationships and scenarios. And what I want to invite you to do is pay more attention to that and see if it has relevance for choosing. See if it has relevance for perception about what the other person is actually experiencing or going through. And relevance for what your kind of automatic reaction to that might be. The point is, this is something you can do yourself. Go through the layers, ask and invoke your soul to speak and give you guidance and direction. And then, you know, the whole point is the warrior is in service to the self, the deep self. And that is the correct relationship. And the deep self is related to everything. But so are the warrior's actions. Thank you.